everybody loves. It's all about skin tones. So this one is a really sweet little pickle. Fellow photographer, actually, this baby. Well, not the baby, obviously. Mum is a fellow photographer. Anyway, so skin tones. First thing to remember about skin tones is that it all starts with your lighting. You can see across the bottom here that all these images are completely out, straight out the camera. They are all really evenly exposed, okay? Well, even exposure all the way across, okay? So my lighting is consistent throughout the session, and that's really important to help you get your skin tones right. So that would be the first thing I would suggest you do, is sort out your skin tones. Right, done that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at, start at the top. Now, white balance is really important. I shoot with Kelvin. I am set on 5600. I don't shoot on auto. This is what happens if you shoot on auto. Look how cold that has now gone. Yeah, let's turn that off just so it's quicker. I'll just deal with one image then. Sorry, got a frog in my throat today. So yeah, if you shoot on auto white balance, and I didn't, but if you do, then every shot will be different because your camera will be automatically reading off your colours and everything, and that can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. Now, if you grey card, that's fine, it'll sort it all out for you, right, and it'll regulate it all. The problem with grey carding is what it's going to do is it's going to correct all your colours, but you can see here, okay, that basically she's looking really bluey, coldy with lots of purples around her eyes and all that sort of stuff. So I find that if I shoot with Kelvin, look how warm that is in comparison. Yeah. Sorry. So by comparison, it's lovely and warm, and I think it's easier to change this than it would be to change this. So the first thing we're going to do is just correct your exposure because she was a little under. And take the highlights down. Maybe not that much, take the contrast down a bit. So I'm only doing all this by eye. The other thing to remember is that everyone gets really hung up on red. Like, oh, you've got to take the red out of the baby's skin. Red is normal. We've all got red in our skin. It's just a matter of different degrees. So what you're trying to do is make it normal for her, because I'm not into changing all babies to be exactly the same colour, because they're just not. And I think the important thing is to make sure you have a natural skin tone for that baby, but you've got to make it look beautiful, okay? So she's got quite a pinky skin tone. That's normal for her. So we've just got to try and make it look even more beautiful than it is. So we're not going to touch hue and saturation. Hue and, what was it? Hue. We're not going to touch saturation. We're going to go to the luminance channel. And what luminance does is it lightens and darkens whichever colour you're going to change. So if I was to darken that, oh, that's not healthy. But you can see straight away it's attacking only the reds. So you can see what that's done there, yeah? It's touched the reds. Now, bear in mind, I'm only looking at her skin, because you can see that what I'm doing is also touching the reds in the backdrop, which is fine, because I just want to adjust skin in Lightroom. And it's not changing it enough that I need to worry about it, okay? It's still all got the same beautiful colours. So all I've done is just lighten the red in her skin, okay? And if you want to check that it's not orange that's a problem as well, just move the other sliders. You're not going to do any permanent damage. Mess about with them, and then it's fun for a start, but also you can really see what your problems are. Now you can see there that when I've lifted the luminance on the red channel, it's lightened some of those, so you might just want to notch down your highlights a bit there, you see? So you don't just start at the top and never revisit. Sometimes you do have to go backwards and forwards a little bit, which is all fine. So then I'm going to look at the colour grading, which is just brilliant here. So what I'm going to do is, she's still pinky. I'd quite like to make her a little bit more creamy. The middle is your saturation, and as you see, as you go round, it changes the colour. Okay, if you go back to the middle, it's 0 saturation. So I'm just going to move it a tiny bit like that, and then just move this over. And you can see in comparison down here what it's doing compared to what it was. Okay, so I'm just increasing saturation just a tiny bit, and that's made her skin look really creamy now. Yeah, and if you want to, you can just keep going backwards and forwards a little bit till you get your recipe. It's always about a little recipe, I think, skin tones. Yeah, so I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to do what I always do, pop a bit of sharpening on, do my lens profile correction, and that looks pretty good. Yeah, so done that. You can see the difference that's made. Look. And normally you do this as a batch, obviously, but just for speed, I'm just attacking this one image, and then I'm going to open that in Photoshop just directly. Din, din, din. Takes a second, and ping, there she is. So let's do a quick crop, and then maybe tip her up a little. Do that. That's a bit better, isn't it? And then we'll just do the content aware and let Photoshop do its thing and fill these gaps in. It's pretty good at it. I really quite enjoy doing it. It's quite good. Sometimes you'll need to do a bit of adjustment, but mostly it's pretty good. So let that work. There you go. It's not bad. I'd probably just correct that, but hey ho, let's worry about that another day. Right, levels, always the first thing I do just to double check that I'm happy, and that is pretty good. Then I'm going to just go to colour balance here, and this is just something I do to all my images. I just nudge the yellow a tiny bit there, and then I'm going to go to saturation and just take that down like 5 points or something. That's it. Okay. Now she's not yellowy creamy, but she is a lovely creamy colour. So quite often what we do is we get hung up on the face, right? Now she's got patches on her face that we might want to adjust, like here, and she's got a little bit of a colour, weird because she's squinting her eye. There's a little bit of grey there, there's a little bit of grey, okay? And then she's got this brow area here. Now, if you were to do any major adjustments, you'd ruin the whole image, because I think actually if you look at the open skin on her back and her shoulder and her arm, that's lovely. Nothing wrong with that. That's clearly a really normal skin tone for her. So I don't want to do anything to the whole image. I just want to do patch corrections. All right. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go to frequency separation. Now, frequency separation can be a standalone action. I got this one from Flern. Just let it run. But you quite often get them in action sets, like LSP and other action sets. They have a frequency separation action inside them. They might have a different layout, but they basically do the same thing. They basically separate your high from your low frequency. So for the purposes of teaching you this stuff, I'm going to go on the low. And what the low is going to do is look at the colour only, and it's not going to touch any of the texture, which is exactly what I want to happen. So I'm going to use my brush, but when I click Option on a Mac, it brings up my dropper tool. Can you see that? And it will allow me to sample anywhere when I hold the key down. So what I'm going to do, I've got my flow and opacity on quite low there. I'm just going to just gently sample and go across. So I'm not adding a fake colour. It's still her actual colour. See? And I'm sampling. Make sure your dropper tool is on 11 by 11 average. You can check that by going eyedropper tool, 11 by 11 average. Go back on the brush. So if I now want to adjust that red there, I can nick a bit of colour off there and just lighten that. She's got a bit of a weird grey eyelid there, so I can adjust that. See how I'm just borrowing her own skin tone, see? Just to even out the rest of her face. But I do not want to change any of the shadows particularly, because that will flatten her, okay? Because that would not be a good thing. So if we zoom in a little bit, make the brush smaller and just gently change colours. So over here, for example, if I want to make any adjustments, you see how I'm sampling similar tones. I'm not taking a light colour and putting it on a dark area, because what that will do is that will change the shadows, and I don't want to do that. Okay, there we go. So what I'll do in a minute is I'll actually take off the adjustments that I've done, and you'll be able to see the difference it's actually made. So you could do it down here. She's got a red patch there if you wanted to do that. If you felt, I don't, but if you did feel her toes were a little bit too red, you could just nick a bit of colour off there like that. You see how the reason I'm got these on low is so that you can build this up really gently. You don't want to do anything really harsh. It's about just doing it as you see it, just letting it happen naturally and building it up. Not quickly, because otherwise you can lose it a little bit. Okay, so what I do want to do actually is just have a lighter patch here. So I'm going to just nick a bit of skin tone up there and just lift her forehead a bit there. Okay. Alright, she's got a bit of red going on. Make the brush smaller. Bit of a red area here, but you see I'm taking a colour from a darker area, not a lighter area. There. So if I now take all that away, look, see, yeah, and that is looking nice. So obviously on the high frequency you'd use your clone tool on about 80%, and you want your brush only, take hardness off, only to be as big as the imperfections you're trying to get rid of. Okay, so you're not removing her texture. That's the last thing. I'll get rid of that little crease. That's the last thing you want to do. We don't want a waxwork doll, because think about it, if mum wants this blown up on a canvas and it's like massive, she's going to stand right next to that and her baby will just look like she's made of wax, and it's just not, oops, not pretty. So the only thing that I'm changing here is the imperfections, little skin flakes. It's good for random rogue hair, like there, for example. A little bit of a hangnail there, look. Yeah, get rid of that. But other than that, a little bit of maybe dried milk. Can't remember if she had a feed. But you see how I'm zooming in, and I'm only doing the bare minimum, just so she stays really natural looking. Got a right old frog in my throat today. That's not good. Oh, another hangnail there. So yeah, you can just go round and go around and have a look. So she's looking pretty good. Okay, there we go. So if I take all that off now, that frequency separation, you can see. Looking nice, yeah? So I'll flatten that. I think I'm going to just warm her up a touch, like that. I do tend to just double check my levels. You can use other actions like deblotch if you want to, or other skin smoothing actions if you want to as well. But please be mindful to try not to do it and get rid of all this lovely texture, because it's just pretty. So I will actually just run deblotch across it. This is in the action set by Totally Rad. You have to get the whole action set, but it is pretty good. You'll see what I mean. But again, be gentle. Don't go over details. Just go on to open skin like that. Don't go over creases. Yeah, like that. You want a nice natural looking baby skin. Also, because she's actually smiling, if you were to get rid of too much texture and form and shadow, she'd look really weird. So be gentle, be conservative with these actions when you get them. Okay, there you go. Yeah, like that. And then you can run a sharpening action over it if you want to. I've also got a video on how to do sharpening on skin and details without an action. So yeah, you can also have a look at that video if you want to. If you don't want to get the Totally Rad, And there's also another way that I've got of doing something similar without buying that action too. So yeah, go and take a look. There you go. Oh, let me just do a quick before and after on the Lightroom. Reset. So that to that. There you go. And the only action I used was the deblotch. You're welcome. Bye.